How do you do, Udaloo? It's Hotline League episode 61. I am so excited to be joining all of you lovely individuals out there on the World Wide Web that we're broadcasting live across the World Wide Web. If you've got your Winamp open, feel free to put in the feed, and everything will be great. It's so good to be back. There's a ton of stuff we're going to be talking about tonight. I don't know what, but you all do, and we'll be taking your calls to find out what that is shortly. Of course, really important to say, this show is sponsored by Alienware. A little depth of field action going on, but if you look through the blur, you'll see a bunch of Alienware stuff behind me. I don't know what Mark is doing, but he's really excited about it. You can see his headphones.
I'm just trying to zoom in on the headset, the Alienware. I didn't turn my head, so I didn't really think this part out. Is this better?
There we go. That's what we'll go back and say. Listen, we know we were going to give you that custom slate at the beginning of the show, but here's Mark zooming into his headset a ton. Hope you guys like it. Either way, let's go ahead and introduce my guests for this week, my co-host, whatever. My constant co-host, Mark Zimmerman, is right in that box right there. How's it going, Mark?
It's going. So, first week of LCS was popping. There's Twitch Rivals last week, which we didn't actually get a chance to cover since we didn't really do a Hotline League last week. And then I filmed, this is the week that we're starting to film a bunch of stuff for offline TV. So if you saw some of the pictures from yesterday, that first episode was filmed for something that'll come out next week, hopefully. So it's a pretty active and busy time. And I think my power ranking sucked. I'll just go out and say it. I think I'm going to be way off, like more off than I've ever been on a power ranking video.
Well, I really want to get into that in a second because people are really excited.
I don't think it's a surprise that the least effort I ever put into a power ranking video is probably going to be my worst, like, accuracy one as well.
Yeah, you should do a remake of the power ranking. We'll just
redo it,
delete the video and re-upload a new one, and it's just based off of all the updates for this week. You just go down the list.
Well, wasn't it last year that like you did constant like updatings to your power rankings?
On GLT, we would do a week over week one for GLT.
Yeah.
I might just do a tweet version of that moving forward.
I'd like it if you did a video. And hey, while you're at it, let's host it on my channel again, because that worked out really well.
You know, start paying me for that?
You know, we can talk about it. I know a guy.
I'm way too lazy. No.
Well, you can get 50% of the YouTube CPM.
Kelby,
100%
I know that
of the video I'm making.
Most sports media places, power rankings are very highly sought after commodities by sponsors. Do you think you could make that happen?
Yeah.
Okay.
Totally.
Great. This is the confidence you need from a sales team, everyone. It's about the same level of confidence I received at CBSI and Yahoo from their sales teams. Speaking of sales teams, Kelby May is our guest for tonight. How's it going, Kelby?
Great. I'm doing fantastic. It's been really busy as of late, but I was pretty surprised. I know that the first week of LCS results tends to be like pretty volatile, even beyond that. But yeah, I was still surprised by some of the matches. Not surprised by others, but it's looking to be a more competitive season than I anticipated if this continues.
What have you been up to recently?
Dude, I'm just grinding, man. This is like renewal season for sponsorships, so we are like I'm out doing a ton of work, just trying to get people on the loaded roster deals, get them hooked up.
By the way, we've got Jack, Nick, and Steve in the chat, so everybody be on your best behavior, everyone, please. So only say respectful things about their teams.
Can we
My
do
three favorite team owners?
Yeah, there you go.
We should do a thing where the three of us step back and we put them in the picture slots, and the three of them kind of host the show.
Yeah, that's great. And then we still sell it to Alienware and whoever else.
I don't mean this is a long-term thing. I just mean this episode, since all three are here, and we have, fortunately, a 3-box set up. Yeah. So
nice. And Kelby, you're getting ready to move down here, right?
Yep, next week. I move on Thursday. And
wait,
Friday.
Where do you live right now?
In San Francisco. I'm still... Mark, this is literally the same apartment shot that I've had for like 4 years or like however long on the show.
Is it insulting if I said
Do you pay attention to me at all?
The entire time you thought he lived in L.A.?
I don't. I just didn't know it was in San Francisco. Like, it makes sense. You work at Twitch, but like, there's other people who work at Twitch and are in SoCal.
Oh yeah, no. I live in downtown San Francisco, but we're moving next week to Marina del Rey.
I absolutely love that Mark had no idea where Kelby lived.
Yep.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Well, let's get into it. By the way, you said that you were surprised by some of the results this week in Kelby. You know who was definitely surprised? The guy who went 0-5 in predictions on the analyst desk on the first day, Mark Zimmerman.
I don't think anyone of the analysts I know, except for maybe Kobe, had a better than 50% pick rate on that day. So I don't feel that bad about that. I'll be honest, I feel worse about my end of season power rankings probably than I do about going 0-5. I don't give a fuck about going 0-5, honestly. On the first day of the season before you see anyone play, I don't care.
I will say this: if people can go back and watch Hotline League from last week where I made my predictions, I know I'm not an analyst, but I had a better than 50% rating.
I forget if you did or didn't.
I did. I predicted the only two that I got wrong on the first day was I had Golden Guardians winning and CLG winning.
Yeah. Those are the two I got wrong.
And by the way, everyone should have predicted those, and everyone should be disappointed in those two teams for not pulling it through.
I agree, considering what was going on.
Yeah. I mean,
with their opponents.
Nick might still be in the chat, but I feel like them losing to an academy team was.
Hey, an academy team plus a world champion. Let's give him some credit in that loss.
He was not a recent world champion. I mean, I think if you look, his team at Worlds was like the academy team of Worlds last.
They still made it from Korea.
Yeah. Well, regardless, that was interesting. And then your power rankings, you got. I know we referenced this a little bit at the beginning, but it was great because you rushed me the power rankings at midnight the night before. I posted it right before the games went live. And then all the comments that I've seen, because I look at the analytics app from YouTube, and it gives you all the comments as they're getting updated on stuff, and all the comments are just like, "LOL, this guy thought Clutch was going to be last." LOL.
Well, so it's funny because if you go look at it just on a web browser, all the most upvoted comments are more just like memeing about me posting it on your channel. There's really no like commentary on like the quality of the analysis, so it's only the new ones. So just don't sort by new.
Yeah.
And it's fine.
Well, I really enjoyed how that went down. I'm kind of surprised with some of the results from this past weekend, but quite frankly, I don't feel like there's anything that's too shocking. Like we didn't have any crazy upsets, right?
I think the Golden Guardians going 0-2, given community perception about that team, is the most surprising thing.
Yeah.
If I can, and maybe Clutch going 2-0, but that's debatable.
Yeah.
Holy shit, Jack says
Jack
CLG
just
is going
said
to
in chat,
save.
CLG is going to save GGS from 4 splits of 10th place in a row.
Yowza, dude. Jack.
They have children. Jack's just they literally have children, by the way, that both GGS and CLG team operators. Jack's just out with a scythe today. He's blasted Steve's sponsor relations on Twitter.
That tweet, holy shit, man.
Blowing up Nick and Hunter on Twitch chat. That's a yikes. All right, I'm trying to think of any other big. So, I mean, obviously, the big stuff to talk about this weekend is the first weekend of LCS. We can talk about St. Louis getting announced, the spring finals location.
Be happy about that. For once, they announced it months ahead of time.
Yeah, that's nice. I mean, we'll see how long it takes for them to put tickets on sale, because that's often a problem that they run into. Is they'll announce it and then like, hey, everyone, tickets go on sale 3 weeks before the event. Good luck getting them, and hopefully you can buy a plane ticket. And then also the MSI location, which I'm very excited about. Vietnam, a little less excited about Taiwan just because I've been there before, and but I'm really excited about Vietnam, and I've heard amazing things about their league community, so I think that's going to be a great barrel of fun.
So, Travis, can I interrupt with one tangent before we get to callers?
Yeah.
So, the anime poster behind Mark, closest to his head, the top one on the right. What does that look like to you?
I think I know which one you're talking about. Let me see if I can. Can you zoom in on
it? It's kind of small people, but for me.
Wait, that's the wrong way.
Yeah.
This is hard to do. It's got to focus.
That doesn't help.
Is it
still
not
doesn't
help?
help.
Is it not giving more clarity?
It still looks very questionable.
No, you can see it. It's a girl getting a piggyback ride from a guy with like this weird head. You can totally make that out. I actually don't know what that's from either. It's these are not my posters.
Woo! I just looked there and I was like, wow, that's a poster.
Maybe we should get into the calls.
Yeah, it's Poon Poon or Pun Pun or whatever it's called.
I feel like it's actually safer to have random strangers call into the show and talk than to have you two talk so far, based off of how the show's gone.
And I don't want this to happen, but in some ways, no, I'm not going to finish that thought.
Yeah, thank God. All right, you want to explain how the call system works, Mark?
Is there anything else you want to talk about before we get into it, or no?
Well, I'm trying to think. That's obviously the big stuff, right? Like the big.
What about
news
you,
is-
Travis? What's new for you? You said us to. Is there anything popping in
Yeah.
the world of Travis Gafford?
No. Oh, I filmed the first set of interviews for Playmaker Season 2. I will, for those that don't remember, Playmakers was a series of interviews I did with Riot folks. One of the people I interviewed, actually, I'll just tell you all four of them. One of them is Matthew
McConaughey?
Manarino. Huh? You asked, Mark.
I thought you were going to say Matthew, and then you kind of stuttered the second name out, so I thought it was Matthew McConaughey.
He doesn't
No,
work
it
at
wasn't.
Riot. Matthew Manarino,
Wait.
he's a creative lead. He did the Odyssey stuff last year. Bridget Davidson, who worked on the esports stuff, not anymore, but talked about her history at Riot. We talked to Stephanie D, who is a producer at Riot Bay, which is a place where they're working on unannounced projects.
How do you spell Bay?
Bay. It's located in Redwood City, Redmond. Where's the Bay area?
No, yeah,
Tell
it's Redwood City, I think.
Yeah. And then the last interview is with an individual named Certainly T, who you may know as a designer
Oh
of
shit!
champions. Yeah.
That's the guy who designed my least favorite champions to play against.
Yeah, we talked about a lot of different stuff. It's actually a really good interview. I'm excited about it. So
Yeah, I actually think the ones where you interview people that are like somewhat poorly viewed in the community's eyes are often the most insightful because it's a different perspective versus someone who like aligns with community perception.
yeah, it's really fun. And we just talked candidly about the community perception around some of his champions and stuff. So
Which champions did he do that you were?
he did like all the
Like
he has a reputation for
Yasuo, Kali
releasing really
rework.
OP champions like Thresh, Yasuo,
Kali rework, I think.
yeah, a ton of stuff.
Dude, Yasuo and Thresh own though.
Well, that's part of the problem is they're very strong. Let's go into calls though, because it's been a bit, Mark.
All right, so if you guys have never seen the show before and this is your first time watching, this is a live call-in show, and so I'm spamming Twitch chat with Discord in the most obnoxious way possible. Go ahead and join up with the Discord, and when you get here, you're going to want to join Pleb Calls or Pleb Calls 2. You can mute your mic once you're in there. And then in the Pleb Topics text channel, you're going to go ahead and post whatever it is you want to talk to us about. It's best if you have a take or opinion, so don't just say, I want to talk about TL. Say something like, I think TL will go undefeated. I think TL will definitely end number 1 or something. If we like your take, we'll pull you from that Pleb Calls channel that you're sitting in into the waiting room where you'll hang out until it's your time to come on and talk. I'll pop into the room, do a quick mic check, and assuming everything's good, we'll pull you into the on-air room, and then you'll be ready to join us on discussioning things and stuff.
There you go. And if you are a sub, which by the way, shout out to all the subs. My sub count has fallen to abysmal numbers. We're a third of what we once were, and it's really, that's how my self-worth is as well these days. But if you are a sub, you can get access to the subtopics channel. You can drop your topic in there. Just make sure that you connect your Twitch and your Discord accounts, and that will help you. It moves a little slower, so you have a bit of an advantage there as well. And we check both channels, so there you go. Without further ado, I don't know if you're starting to pull people, Mark. But...
Yeah, I can grab the first one.
Okay, cool. And while you're doing that, I'll read off a couple, speaking of subs for this week, as my stuff loads up. Where are we? Darking, 13 months. Pokemon 383, who I saw this weekend at LCS, 5 months. Craig Yorger for 10 months. Mr. Man 0423, Minnepoppin, Balloon. Liquid 112 for 12 months. A year-long sub.
Damn.
Thank you, Steve. Nihilist Gamer, 8 months. Phineas LOL. Kendo Slice. Coco Sanchez, 11 months. Getting close. Davros, 26, who's happy about Kelby being here. Full Metal Samurai, Boater Michael. And Paradox the Only is here right now. Paradox the Only, where are you calling from?
From Iowa City, Iowa.
Iowa City. I didn't even know there was an Iowa City in Iowa.
Yeah, I was just gonna say Iowa initially, but yeah, it's a pretty poppin' place.
Is it?
Yeah, actually it is. It's a college town, so.
I'm
Cool.
gonna be honest, I am surprised to know that any place in Iowa is popping.
Yeah, I know. It's actually negative 55 right now, so.
Really?
Yeah, you can look it up.
Oh my
Yeah.
god.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. It was
No,
65
it's fine.
here today.
Yeah, I know. I've been out to the Santa Clarita area before. I used to live there.
Yeah. It's actually really bad. I should stop telling people on the show how great California is because I don't want any people to live here. You know what? It's great. Enjoy your 55-degree weather.
Yeah.
And don't die. Jeez.
I'll try not to.
Yeah.
All right. So, what do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
So I just had the hot take that I think that CLG and Golden Guardians will still make playoffs.
I like how this is now a hot take. The hot take after this weekend is that they have a chance at making playoffs, or that they will make playoffs. So do you
Right,
think
and
both
then-
of them, or
yeah.
only one of them?
Both of them. I'm very confident in that.
Okay. All right. So go ahead and elaborate.
Yeah, so I mean, for one, it being a hot take, I think that's only because the consensus is that a lot of people think they're like crap teams right now, but the split is an 18-game split, so there's still a lot of games left to be played.
Yeah.
And this, just for COG specifically, the bot lane is at least a top 5 bot lane, if not better. I just think that they might need a little bit more time to start playing better. And if we go to Golden Guardians, they have Hanser, who I'd say looked pretty well in the first 2 games, minus that Ryze TP or the Ryze ulti play that was kind of questionable.
Can we talk really quickly? Sorry to make this about me, but it's a common thread. Hi, Mark. I got blasted at the end of last year for being skeptical about the Froggen pickup. And everyone was like, Froggen's amazing. What are you talking about? Shut up, Travis. How dare you? I mean, why don't I start off by asking you, our dear caller, Paradox Only, how do you feel about Froggen's performance this past weekend?
So I was actually, I wouldn't be one to berate you for saying that about Froggen, but I actually was a high believer of Froggen. I actually told my brother the same thing. I thought he was going to do really well in NA, but he looked subpar in the first 2 games. So, I mean, basically anyone that said that he wasn't going to perform was right. So,
Yeah, I mean, I'm not saying he's not going to perform. I just don't know if he was the right pickup for Golden Guardians, and quite frankly, this weekend did not make me feel like I believed more.
well, I think Froggen is, in the past, he's really good individually in regards to getting his CS numbers and getting to late game. But I think why I thought it was going to work good for Golden Guardians is that I thought they were going to play around Hanser a lot more. And then maybe like a Hanser and Contracts top jungle duo would like take over early game. And then by late game, Froggen would be scaled up. But in this meta, it's a very early game, mid game meta.
Yeah. So, Mark, going back to your power rankings, you had GGS coming in at 5th and CLG at 6th, I believe. So I'm curious to see. This is interesting, right? Because do you still believe you believed with the caller?
Sell. I'm not super confident in them. I was always a bit of a doubter on the move too, like Travis, but I think I let myself get swayed by other people's opinions. Plus, so I didn't do as much. So what I usually do is I'll talk to a lot of teams, and I will usually go to a team house, and I will like sit in on a day of scrims with someone to understand the meta and all this stuff. One, the meta wasn't that different, so I didn't feel super compelled to. Like, it's still Urgot, Akali, Lissandra, yada, yada, yada. So I didn't feel like I need to learn that. And then I was really busy, so I didn't end up going to a team house and quizzing them on like who's doing well or not. And so I talked to some people after the first couple day of scrims way back at the start of January, and they said Golden Guardians look good.
Yep.
After week 1, I talked to a couple more people about like what's going on behind the scenes, and apparently they're getting slammed in scrims according to some people. And so I had this is why I was saying I did the least effort I've ever put into my power ranking videos, and like I'm now bearing the fruit of that. Like I wasn't super confident on Golden Guardians, but I let myself buy into the hype and what I heard from other people. And then sure enough, it's all like a load of shit, basically. So I'm not super confident in Golden Guardians. Like, yes, they can still turn it around. This is not like a death sentence after week 1, but they did not look super good at all. And I heard Froggen hasn't been doing super well. Some people think he's super washed up. And Haunter, he did look good, but you need to realize that like the team was putting him pretty heavily in positions to look good in individual situations. Like a Vladimir top lane and a Ryze top lane should basically win those lanes. And he did, but then he didn't actually like take over the game from there or anything like that. And he was split pushing on an island a lot of the time. So like I don't think Haunter looked that good this weekend either. I thought he was given like very selfish champions and he played selfishly, and then the team lost, which is not super impressive.
Yeah, I definitely feel that too. I think what I was saying is that, so correct me if I'm wrong, I'm using another instance. The Someday into Broken Blade, Victor into Scion, doesn't Victor win that matchup?
Barely.
Barely, okay.
Because so I was talking to Azale a fair amount that matchup, and it's been played a couple times in Korea and stuff like that, and Scion's doing well if he's even farming, and if he's doing really well, then you have some kill threat onto him sometimes. But it's still Victor favored. It's just like you don't shit on him like people are used to seeing Victor shit on top laners.
Okay, I guess the only reason I was using that as a comparison is that I think although that you can be set up to succeed by your team, you still need to do it too. Like it's not as simple as just being put all the resources and it'll just happen every time. I still think that the player has to be of a caliber to do that. So that's what I meant by Haunter performing well. But I definitely think at the very least, Haunter should be at least a top 5 top laner. And Contracts, I mean, Contracts didn't perform as good as I thought he did. Because I'm a small content creator too, and I had Contracts as the second best jungler in this split. That's what I thought he'd be performing to. But he definitely hasn't been looking like that either. So I think that's where most of my faith came from for this Golden Guardians team is the Haunter and Contracts duel.
Yeah, I think, I bought into the hype too, dude, and both of us are going to look silly for it, I think.
Yeah, well, it's a long season. I'm still sticking to my guns.
I mean, that's basically all I can say at this point is like, I look retarded week 1, but like, hold out for week 9, bros. But I think we're both going to look silly with that one.
Yeah.
All right.
How did Ole look in week 1?
Terrible.
Yeah, he did. Trolling.
For sure.
Trolling.
I put a lot of stock. Yeah, I had a Golden Guardians 5th and CLG 6th, just like you, Mark. I put a lot of stock into Golden Guardians because I like Travis. I didn't think that Froggen was an amazing pickup, but I thought that he would still do what he always did well, which is like, go even in CS, and with the rest of the talent on his team, that would be enough for them to be like a 5th place team. But I put a lot of stock in Ole as well to kind of raise the lane with Deftly, and now I'm like concerned that like without Peter, I had Ole as the second best support in the league potentially. So like if he's really like not performing that well without Peter, it gives me like pause for concern. And also like I think we know previously like he might have self-confidence issues if things don't go super well. And on TL, he was in a fortunate enough situation where they were always pretty much riding high. So I just hope that they can recover.
I hope they can.
Who was your
for my
first
sake.
best support, Kelby?
Maybe I had him 3rd or 4th. First was Core JJ.
Yeah,
I had him at
And I think I had 2nd was maybe Smoothie or Zazel. He was high. I had him high.
Yeah, I think back like Immortal Smoothie was the best in the league. TL Smoothie was like maybe top, or not. I keep saying Smoothie. Ole. Yeah. And then I think TL Ole was kind of variable between like 3rd and like 5th, but now it's like 5th or lower because you have Core JJ, Afro, Smoothie, Zazel, who are all like super good. Hakuho's really consistent and good, and like he almost never looks as bad as Ole looks when Ole looks bad. So like you have a lot of people who are starting to pass him up.
Yeah.
All right, so are you sticking to your guns on they're going to make playoffs?
Yeah,
Me?
I mean,
No.
or
Oh.
Paradox, calm down.
yeah. No, I definitely am. Like I said, it's only one weekend. Like in comparison to other sports as well, where like a team has a bad first week or first couple of weeks. I mean, it's a long season, and I'm still confident in Hanser's past experience. Froggen has the experience as well as a high level. So does Ole. I think that at the very least, they should be fighting for the last playoff spot. That differs very much from my power rankings. I actually had Golden Guardians in fourth place, so I might have gotten too much stock into them, but I'm still confident in them getting to playoffs or at least challenging for that last spot.
So I definitely think Golden Guardians should be better than what they showed this weekend. Whether or not they can turn it around, I don't know, but I have a lot of faith in Danon and Anero to make that happen. On the CLG front, it's interesting because I was really, and I've said this before, really disappointed in CLG's decision to only change 40% of their roster. And now you see them doing really weird stuff like, oh, clearly Mark's lost faith in Team Liquid. Now you see them doing really weird stuff like bringing in academy players, and I don't know. I also, I know he watches the show, and he's an aggressive guy, but I do not think I would have put Weldon as head coach. And so I agreed or disagreed a lot with some of the changes that they made during the offseason and some of the changes they didn't. So I think I was always really skeptical about CLG, but I did have them 6, and part of the reason I had them 6 was because I had less faith in other teams like FlyQuest and Optic. Yeah. Optic came in with an academy team this week, or academy roster, and Crown. I don't know, Mark. I don't know if they looked like, if it was just that they were playing teams that were not great, but I thought that they looked better than I would have certainly expected them to look. And then FlyQuest, I think, actually looked pretty decent. Like FlyQuest might be the sleeper. They might kind of fill the Golden Guardians role that I think we expected. So it's interesting because CLG might actually rank lower. I think not necessarily because
they could.
It's just like these other teams are better.
Yeah, I think it's both. Because I have a similar line of thinking as you, Travis, where I was initially thinking that, okay, even if CLG doesn't pan out super well, like they'll still beat out a bunch of these other teams.
Yeah.
But now I'm not convinced of that. Paradox, you're
Paradox. Any final thoughts? Sorry, we're gonna.
What?
You're echoing a little bit, so I think we'll just say goodbye because we've also ended the topic. So anything that you want to say on the way out?
Just the last thing for Golden Guardians is that I forgot to touch on Anero and Danon. I actually have great faith in Anero as well as Danon. Danon actually graduated at my university here, University of Iowa. So I actually know him through our league club. Nice. So actually, he's a great guy. He has a good mindset, and I think that Golden Guardians will resurge back by the end of the season, get to playoffs.
Very good. Well, hey, thank you so much, Paradox, for the call.
Yeah, thank you very much.
And keep holding it down. Try to stay warm.
I will. Thank you, bye.
We can do one more call, Mark, before we go to the break.
I just wanted to throw in real quick about the CLG topic. I'm really concerned for them too. Just because like Echo Fox, Clutch, and FlyQuest all looks. I don't know who looks worse in the league than them right now. It's like between them and Golden Guardians, and I have more faith in Golden Guardians, I think, to figure things out. So, yikes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Did CLG play that bad against TL? I read that they didn't actually do that bad.
No, they didn't. Well, so I think the way the TL game worked was TL just didn't give a fuck about making anything happen because they knew that they were better and going to win as long as they didn't fuck up. And so CLG had a couple of instances where they almost could have got a lead in the game, but Core JJ outplayed them a bunch of times to make it happen. And then eventually TL just turned on and murdered them. But it didn't really feel like TL felt any pressure to make their own plays for a long period of time, and eventually they just kind of won.
Yeah. Danon in the chat, by the way, right now as well. The CLG thing kind of breaks my heart because people have asked me before, are you a fan of any team in particular? And no, not really. It's being a part of the industry, you tend to not really fanboy over certain teams. I'm critical of more teams, certainly, than others. But with CLG, you hate to see an organization that was basically the first league esports team start to fall. And it feels like that as a brand and as competitors, they've just been slipping year over year for a while. And if they do come in 10th this split, that's going to be really disappointing. So hopefully they can at least put on a good showing this.
They've been relegated before.
They never got relegated. They've gone to relegations.
They went to relegation. Excuse me.
A couple times.
Under Kelby. You're right. Actually, ever since Kelby left, they've been at least in a better position. Those were the true dark days. All right, you want to pull, or you want to go grab somebody else? Oh, he is. Davros26, thank you for the 5 months. Full Metal Samurai. Boater Michael. How's it going, Boater Michael? Brawler Yukon 5. Smallon 4 months. I love you, chat. 14 months. There you go. Thank you for the full year. Brawler Yukon 109 bits. I'm Elvis. 12 months. Congratulations on a year. Kingdom Hearts 3 and Kelby May on my 12-month anniversary. Best night ever. That's What's Up 777 for 3 months. And who says, thanks for being the dad I already have, but I like having two. And Blue Jay 1344 for 11 months. Kazar 99. Dragon Mancers is in the call. Dragon Mancers, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Dallas.
Dallas. Okay, how's it going in Dallas? Is it super cold there?
It's been pretty chilly recently. I think it got really chilly yesterday morning.
Thanks. Well, I'm going to be going to Austin for South by Southwest this year, which is not Dallas, but is in the same state. Okay, we don't care about that.
Was there a follow-up? Was there a hook there I missed?
What do you want to talk about on the show tonight, Dragon Mancers? Maybe we should just move on to that.
Oh, well, since Kelby's on the show tonight, recently I've been seeing a lot of LEC rebranding stuff, talking about their sponsorships and how LCS has been seemed to be lacking in and I just wanted to talk about that with Kelby since he's on.
By the way, as an interesting aside, I've heard at least one NALCS owner, well now LCS, sent a very frustrated email to Riot about all the sponsors that got announced for LEC and kind of the lack of that for LCS so far. I don't know, Kelby, did you see all the stuff that got announced? They've got Kia and Shell and a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so what did you want me to talk about with specifics here? Did you want me to just shit on NA and praise LEC, or like what do you want a reaction to, or what do you want me to wax poetically on?
It just seems like a lot of people have been saying like there's a huge difference, and I know there's like State Farm, the Jersey Mike's.
Yeah.
And it's not seen as big as Kia and Shell and stuff. And I was curious, sort of like your perspective on that, because in my opinion, I'm not someone who has any experience at all in this field. It doesn't seem like there's as big a gap between the two regions as a lot of people have been saying.
Gotcha.
In terms of what?
Sponsor.
Just like sponsorships and like the weight of those sponsorships.
I mean, there's certainly not as big of a gap. Well, there is a gap now, but EU is killing it on the sponsorship side. I don't know, Kelby, what do you think?
Yeah, so I would say that there's a couple of things to take into consideration here, which we don't have full context of, and really probably only Riot and the team owners in their respective regions have context of. Assuming
That's never
that
stopped you before, Kelby.
I'm just providing. Anyways,
he's ramping into it.
Yeah. Let me continue. So just because a sizable brand is attached as a sponsor, or a smaller brand is attached as a sponsor, unless we know the compensation being offered and what the deliverables are in turn for that, we can't really evaluate the sponsor deal, right? Like, we've had clothing sponsors come into the space before, like Adidas, for example, like a couple years ago was a sponsor of Copenhagen Wolves, and people see like Adidas and they think like, wow, these guys must be getting a ton of money. But oftentimes it is the case that like an organization will do a deal with a brand where they're taking less compensation because they can't demand it, or they're willing to provide a lower level of deliverables. It has been the rumor that for North American League of Legends, one of the big reasons that they haven't had as many sponsors in the past is because they've had a very, very high bar that they've set as far as what they were willing to provide on the deliverable side and what they were looking for in terms of compensation. It could be that LEC is, asking for less in terms of compensation and also willing to offer more in terms of deliverables. We don't know. Riot has that insight. I will say, though, regardless of, if they're willing to give away sponsorships below market rate or whatever it would be, historically, in my experience, and I think generally across the industry, selling in Europe has been much more difficult than it has been in North America, because the way that a lot of marketing budgets work in Europe is that, like, in US, we have like companies that are not like fragmented across different languages and regions. Like you have a US budget or North American budget, and all the brands filter in through that. In Europe, it's like you have like Coke in the Netherlands and the UK and like France, and like it's often fragmented. So getting a deal that combines all regions like the LEC does is often very difficult to do. So I think that the fact that they've been able to get this many sponsors, regardless of like, you know, what their barrier of entry is and what they're willing to provide in comparison to North America, is really impressive, especially considering Chopper in Travis's video talked about how oftentimes big sponsor deals, especially for NALCS, which tends to be a leader into a global sponsorship, can have a very long lead time. It's very common, like with the Evil Geniuses Comcast deal that we did, like we had like a 2.5 year pitch process to get Comcast in the door to sponsor Evil Geniuses. And, you know, Evil Genius is not as big of an organization as Riot is. So it would not surprise me if that is a longer pitch process. But LEC, which just spun up as a franchise league, you know, like 6 months ago, they probably went out and started pitching, has been able to get these deals off the ground and going by the time that the league started. So I would say props to them. I do think that NA has made some good progress. And the other thing as well, as we've noted, is that NA tends to kind of be the organization who is, it seems to be the agency body for selling worldwide deals, which, you know, potentially...
Because you're talking about how, for instance, we have the Alienware deal, which came in on
the MasterCard deal.
And, well, MasterCard is not they don't sponsor any NA product. They only sponsor the global stuff.
Right. But yeah, that's NA, I think that was still done through the NA office. Or am I mistaken?
Well, there's a global team and there's there's an NA team.
Right.
And honestly, so I know that they do have a new sales/biz dev guy for North America, but previously, Naz, who I feel comfortable bringing up on the show because I did an interview with her and she's now out there in the public, she was, from my understanding, handling global stuff and North America stuff.
Right. So that's what I'm saying, is that if she's responsible for global and North America, then her region that she was responsible for is going to suffer as a result, because if you're just selling for LEC and not selling for global, and global deals certainly are going to take a lot longer, then, you know, like it allows you to be more specialized. Just like we often see, like in the sales space, like we split up endemic and non-endemic sales because the endemic sales process is so much simpler and easier than non-endemics.
So this is what I brought up with Chopper, though. Like it's frustrating. I think LCS owners should be potentially frustrated because LEC has the benefit of the central team selling in sponsorships like the Alienware one across their stuff and the global stuff. But then they also have what seems to be like and have had for a while, like a dedicated sales team also selling their own stuff, whereas it seems like North America hasn't had that type of support. So like I can understand why an LCS owner would be really frustrated. Their league has existed, their franchise league has existed for an entire year ahead of LEC, but they haven't been able to get the type of sponsorships that LEC has been able to get in such a short time.
Yep, I mean I've talked about this before. I've been really, really harsh on Riot in the past. I do think that if Riot wanted to open the door, and I do not know what they're looking for in terms of compensation for the level of deliverables that they're willing to provide. As I've said in the past, I think if they are willing to play with what the market is bearing in that regard, it would not be difficult for them to sign up a good number of sponsors relatively quickly. But, you know, they have their process. They have their standards. It's up between them and the team owners to arrive in a level of expectations that they think is appropriate, and I hope that they are working towards that point together.
Chimpio in chat says NA hired their B2B sponsorship guy in October. I've spoken with him multiple times. I think it's probably the same person that I've spoken to. By the way, I always do really like it when somebody I've never... Like, I don't recognize the name Chimpio. He doesn't have, like, a verified name next to him. But it's always interesting when people who have, like, random names in chat are like, I've talked to this person multiple times, or I know about this stuff. Also, by the way, as we're talking about this, for those that are watching the VOD or listening to the podcast, Jack in chat says NA is going to be fine, but yeah, the LEC is doing very impressive work. I just, like, that was there. There were two things that made me really kind of disappointed. And I don't know how you feel about this stuff, Mark, because maybe this broadens the topic out a little bit enough to wake you up. But the,
This is alcoholic.
Yeah, okay.
I don't care.
The two things that were really impressive about LEC is they announced all these sponsors, and then they also had sick content coming out at the start of their split, and we didn't really see that at all during. Oh, now that I shouted out, Jack, he's decided to sub to the show. We didn't really see any of that.
James?
What?
You didn't see James's thing where they wiped NA off the board?
I love their like rebrand video. That rebrand video could have been filmed by me and Brodin in like a conference room in like 45 minutes and edited together. That is not anywhere comparable to the videos that LEC was putting out. And by the way, I feel like I would rate the rebrand video a 5 out of 10 until the very last 10 seconds where they laugh about EU and then put the tagline up. Like, it was a 2-minute video that should have, in my opinion, been like a 60-second video, really, with that punchline at the end. But regardless, you know, like, you've got Frosgren standing next to some, like, Kia thing all hyped up. But that advertisement, in my opinion, did a lot to not only, like, excite people about the brand entering the space, but also hype up with the fact that, like, LEC's coming and they're, like, kicking down the door to get people excited. Meanwhile, in North America, it's like, somebody grab the handy cam and get Dash in front of a whiteboard. We got some work to do. These people on Reddit are upset there's no content coming out about LCS yet. It's like, come on. Well, like, we're supposed to be the superior league. I make fun of that shit every month on my show, and they're coming in with all this lighting and fog machines and all this crazy shit. We've got Dash in front of a whiteboard.
I mean, at the same time, we're not called LEC.
That's true.
So, you know, it's kind of
very true.
So did you hear about like all the stuff that went into like where all that came from, or no?
Hang on.
I don't feel comfortable breaking this, but if it's already known.
You mean the legendary League of Legends League?
No, fuck it, dude.
Really quickly, Jack, now it's Steve and Andy. Clearly, people used to think that I was paid by these owners. What never has been the case up until I started doing the show, because Steve has gifted like 50 or 100 subs. Andy has gifted, I think, 50, and now we got Jack gifting 50. So the holy trinity of owners are now clearly shoving money into my pocket. So thank you to them.
It's actually hilarious. Like when you were more corporate and you were like under On Gamers and Yahoo Esports, but you were getting paid by a corporation to do things of whatever you wanted, people saw you as more sellout than like, hey, I'm grassroots and now I'm getting funded by team owners, and now you're not a sellout. It's
to be clear, hilarious. I'm not getting funded by team owners. They're just gifting subs unsolicited by chat.
Jack literally just paid you like $100.
50 subs is not $100.
50. I don't know what Travis's cut is.
NDA. All right, let's.
Jack's very generous.
Let's get back to it, though. Thank you, Jack, and congratulations to everybody in chat who just got subs. Clearly, he enjoyed me ranting about the LCS stuff. Mark,
so I'll
the story you were saying, though.
I'm not going to say that story because you didn't say if you had heard it too.
No.
Either way,
what is the story?
It's not much of a story. It's just like.
What were you referencing, though? The story behind what came together?
Like why, like where the LEC name came from, and like all this stuff.
Oh,
and,
like all the they have an agency or something.
Or all the brand, yeah.
They have I forget the name of the agency. Somebody in chat will say it in a second, but
yeah, whatever. I mean, that was public, right? I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah,
I mean, all I'm saying is like they spent a shitload of money, as far as I'm aware, on like paying an agency to make shit to hype them up.
They made a video about the rebrand, and that agency helping them.
Right, yeah. So like they obviously spent a lot of money to like create all this hype, and I can understand like, you know, being like, well, where's all of our hype type stuff? And I think I personally am disappointed and wish the LCS had done more to hype up the start of their season beyond Dash and a whiteboard as well. But like, yeah, they're rebranding and they need to get people in the door, so they shelled out for it, whereas we didn't.
Yeah.
Shelled out for it.
Well, I think we should have, or something. Like if the internal LCS team can't handle. I
mean, like Kelby was saying about, you don't know what the deals they took to get those names on their fucking between game screen is. Same thing's true. Like, you don't know what they paid for those ads, and you don't know how effective they actually were. Like, yeah, they got 400,000 people in for their most hype matchup of week 1, but is it gonna be a good long-term decision? I don't know.
I think.
I guess is what I'm saying. Is like marketing is. I don't understand marketing, to be
Well,
honest.
here,
so
let's test this. Dragon Mancers, do you care how much was spent on this, or do you just get frustrated that Lek is spending all this money? And
that's not a good metric. If I fucking bankrupt myself to pay someone to make a baller ass thing for offline TV, that doesn't mean it was a good idea.
Hey, Mark, I asked Dragon Mancers a question.
Sorry, Dragon Mancers, answer the question.
I'd say there's definitely a lot more hype for LEC with those videos than like the one. The name video was funny, but it wasn't like anything that hyped me up for the season. So like the one player one wasn't even close to the LEC stuff.
I mean, and that's kind of my point, right? Is that like ultimately you're right. We don't know how much money is spent, but it's the same thing as like if CLG or Golden Guardians is spending way less money than 100 Thieves or I don't know, Team Liquid. Like, their fans are never truly going to understand that, especially if nobody's coming out and talking about it. And I don't think it's like an easy sort of cop-out. Like, well, you don't know how much money was spent. But, like...
No, for sure.
Spend some money. Spend some money to market the start of your league if you want this stuff to be taken. Or have your internal teams do something. I don't know. It was just kind of disappointing.
Can I say one more thing about sponsorships before we move off it?
Yeah.
Kind of a philosophical statement, if I may.
Sure.
I think one thing that's super important to me and something that I've talked about in the past that will be interesting to see, aside from just getting these brands on board, I'm really, really hopeful that the deals that were done are something where Kia, Shell, all these guys that have gotten on board with the LEC and these LEC teams are deals that are going to bear value, good relationships, and something that keeps these brands interested in the space. I've noticed that recently we are kind of moving towards an era in which we are starting to get more velocity with sales around non-endemic brands. And in my experience, there are people in particular with like really hot commodities. One of the influencers we represent at Loaded is Ninja. And he's had such a big 2018. There are some people that are... I'm providing context for what I'm referencing here. There are people who are willing to spend what I would call unsustainable amounts of money in order to work with him. Deals that we turn down or I negotiate to lower numbers because I don't want to just take as much money as I can from somebody. It's really important as we introduce people into this space, especially since a lot of the metrics and values for your investments are not known. In comparison to linear or other kinds of digital advertising, that brands don't feel like they get burned. I think the worst thing that could happen for esports as an industry is if we get a lot of these big companies on board, we sell them into unsustainable deals because we can, and they have a bad experience. A lot of these deals were probably done through agencies. It's not like you go through Kia or Shell Direct. They have an agency of record that represents them. And most of the time,
and LEC probably has an agency representing them, I believe. So
yes, and those people represent a lot of different brands. We work through like Wasserman on Samsung and GMR on Comcast and yada yada. And when you have a bad relationship, it affects not only your perception and reputation with that brand, but it has a greater spill effect. So I'm really hoping that these have been set up to be like sustainable deals where we show a lot of value. In the long term, them seeing esports and gaming as a good investment, something that I think we all believe like has a lot of value and is going to continue to see like a lot of engagement and growth, and like this is just how people are consuming media in the future. Like, who wants? I won't ramble too much, but I just want to make sure, and I hope that these guys do a really, really good job on fulfilling these deals, so that they continue to invest in the space and see us like as a. So
you'd like to see something more than a rotating logo on the bottom left of the screen.
If that's what you sold and that's the expectation is, and the brand feels like they can get value from that exposure, there are some brands that I work with like where they just want to see mind share for the next purchase decision. They don't need to see like click through or affiliate or whatever. That's fine, but I hope that they deliver on those expectations, and that, you know, there's always bumps in the roads in partnerships, that when there are those things that come up, you're willing to provide the value to, you know, keep them around and keep them happy.
I think it's really cool. Oh, go ahead, Mark.
2 things I'll throw in before we go to break or whatever. One, service level, definitely agree. And like default to trust that EU's not like shooting themselves in the foot with all this stuff that they're doing, but like EU definitely feels like they had the much better off season. And second, Danon's point about starting a GoFundMe to make a deal with the LEC to see if they'll sponsor Travis, or let Travis Gafford Industries sponsor the LEC, is a genius idea.
Yeah, so that's what his plan is. We make a GoFundMe so we get enough money so that we can walk up to LEC and say, how much for this? And then we find out what they're willing to give us, and then we have Kelby on the show give us an analysis of what their rates are and their deliverables and expectations and all that.
It sounds like it won't backfire at all.
Yeah, not backfire at all. The other thing I would say is it's really cool that the LEC and LCS and global events have a chair sponsor, and I would love to have a chair sponsor for Hotline League if anybody's out there watching. I don't know. It would be great if anybody on the sales team...
Travis, you're being pitched to multiple chair companies, okay?
Can we get Mark a chair?
I don't represent
cool?
Mark.
He's on the show, though. You represent Hotline League, right?
We'll talk about it.
Look at the chair that he's got right now. Mostly you can see his belly, but
this is a struggle. It's hooked on some wires. There we go.
Please
look at this thing.
Kelby, clip this and then give them this and show them that Mark can give a chair tour live on the show.
Look at this thing. I need a new chair, Kelby. Help me. Help.
I understand this.
Kelby, I also need some new undershirts because some of the ones that I've had, you know, they get a little stain here or there. So if you can get me that.
Can I get a chef, Kelby? Are there any like sponsorships with chef cook things for me?
What about delivery services?
Yeah, that'd work. I fucking love those.
We can have dinner delivered to us on Hotline League every week,
and we can eat it.
1 second, guys. My Postmates just showed up.
Oh, we're going to break. Let's go get the Postmates, or Grubhub, or E24. All right. Thank you so much. I know we're selling out right now. Dragomancers, thank you for coming on the show. Any final thoughts?
It was all very enlightening.
Yeah.
Really enjoyed it.
I appreciate your question. I'm sure it's boring for like 99% of the people, but I really nerd out on that shit. So.
Jack in chat says, drop me an address and Twitter DMs and I'll send you a Secret Labs chair of champions. Hey, I'll connect you with Kelby. He works with me on this. Thank you, Dragomancers.
Wait, are we going through Kelby? Because I was about to just ask, get a free chair if I could.
Yeah, Mark's like already got the DM open with his address.
I mean, I don't care about making money if I can get a free chair.
Dragomancers, thank you for the call.
I'm revenue focused, unfortunately, Mark.
Fuck.
All
right, I'll hold off.
We're doing a great job, by the way, of showing how independent of a brand we are as we're like celebrating Jack gifting sponsors, and Mark's like, I've already messaged you right now, Jack, hook it up.
Free share in the background. All right, baby.
All right.
Next week, if Cloud9 goes 0-2 and these guys are like super positive, don't worry. They got the recovery. Yeah. They'll be
While
fine.
Jack is here, C9 is one of the only orgs I haven't gotten free clothing from.
Can we
go? Of TLs.
Why don't you just buy their product if you want to support them, Mark?
No, I don't want to support them. I want them to give me free shit so I can use it for
He wants
bits.
them to support him, Kelby. You've got the relationship all wrong. He wants it to go...
in my hand right here is 100 Thieves, TL, and CLG merch. Where's my goddamn C9 merch? I didn't pay for any of that.
He said, waiting for that DM, Mark.
I'm sending it right now.
There you go, Mark. You're going to get a C9 care package. That's Mark is not biased. He would like to receive free shit from all the teams equally. Any of the teams can sell. He could sell out to any of these teams equally. Jack says that's garbage. Give me an address, referencing the other merch. So there you go. Whatever. Can we listen? We need to take a break from selling out to sell out. I'd love to talk to you about our sponsor for the show, Alienware. They have sponsored basically everything that I'm doing this year. Playmakers, which I'm filming today, sponsored by Alienware. The LCS coverage that I was doing this past weekend, sponsored by Alienware. And by the way, it's not just me. They also sponsor Team Liquid. They sponsor Misfits, and they sponsor LCS and LEC. We're talking about sponsorships during the show. Sponsor both of those leagues as well. So their commitment to the league space is super cool and pretty extensive. If you look at the interview that I did with them at CES, literally these guys play League themselves. In fact, David, who is the guy that worked with me on building out a lot of the sponsorship on the Alienware side, he this past weekend, we can all give him an applause. He just hit level 30 because I think he was kind of the holdout on the Alienware side for people who don't play or had played League. And as he committed to LCS and to myself, he went forth and started playing League a ton. He says he's addicted. So, in fact, he's been playing at the Alienware training facility because they have League unlocked there. I guess I saw the tweet. Regardless, they're doing a bunch of cool stuff in the space. They're super committed. In fact, they've been suggesting to me that, even there's like a feedback loop here where if you guys have... Listen, please don't let me be your tech support here, but if you have thoughts on how their sponsorship has been going so far with LCS or in the space, or you feel like there's something you'd like to see them do, you can shoot that my way, and then I'll pass it over to them. That's kind of the feedback loop they're looking for here. But we want to thank them for sponsoring the Hotline League show and everything else that I'm doing. And by the way, while I'm at it, please do me a favor. I'll go ahead and put it into chat right now. Dell.com/Travis. You can check out their products that they've been launching, several of them at CES, by the way, including the Area 51M. Seen probably shots of that on the LCS if you were watching it this past week. Super sick desktop replacement laptop they've got going on. So anyway, thank you so much to Alienware. Thank you to all of you for tweeting at Alienware and showing your support. I've seen multiple people say that they just bought some stuff because of their sponsorship of me. So thank you so much. And I believe that we are on to the next caller, Mark.
Real quick, just want to give a shout out to C9 Jack. Sounds like I'm getting a care package.
Nice. There you go. Congratulations. Happy for you. Moving on to the next caller. A couple of shout outs on... Well, now my feed is covered in Jack stuff. Purple Ray Q, Crazy Connect 85, D Mage 313, M Hub, Boonzo TV, Human Shoes, 00 Snap, XL Gen 27, ICDK, Sport CTC, Kazar99, Blue Jay 1344, the What's Up, and then Ateo Brienne. How's it? Shout out to Brienne, Dr. Manhattan for 15 months, Chest Turtles Bras, Grey Rat Doctor, Ichiryu, and I believe
we got our caller.
Several of them. Dead Fox Zero, where are you calling from?
Hi, I'm calling from Vancouver, BC.
Vancouver,
Canada.
BC. How's Vancouver?
Super cold.
Yeah.
Kind of misty though. Kind of depressing, but it's okay. It's
Vancouver
January.
has a pretty active league scene. I feel like I know a ton of people from.
Yeah.
Vancouver.
We have a pretty active, I think, collegiate scene.
Yeah. How are you? Do you go to one of the colleges up there?
Yeah, I go to
UBC?
SFU.
Oh, SFU. Yeah, UBC and
Yeah.
the SFU rivalry.
Yeah.
Well, hey, what do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
My topic was basically CLG is going to be 10th place this split, and if they don't make any changes by at least summer, until the end of the split, I don't see them going higher than 8th place ever.
8th place ever. So, you said 10th this split, but you're affording them the chance to improve to get up to 8th in summer. It sounds like.
Yeah, because CLG potential.
Okay. To be clear here, you're calling in saying they're going to get 10th place, and then you're saying CLG potential to describe them getting to 8th.
Yeah, you just gotta give them a little bit of faith, You gotta believe in CLG.
You're.
But then,
do you understand how I'm a little confused?
CLG or not? I'm confused.
Yeah.
No, CLG's gonna be 10th place though, unless they change up the top lane.
All right. Well, this is great because they're the foil of the guy who said that they're going to be making it to playoffs. Okay.
Yeah.
Why are they getting to 10th?
Okay, let me just... I think, honestly, if you look at just the roster simply, Darshan, if you look at especially his 2018 stats, right, where he played the majority, I think, of games, I think only Fallen Bandit played one. But Darshan basically was the worst top laner statistically, and I think the way he plays too is actually pretty garbage. And then you would move down, right, to the jungle, Moon and Wiggly, right? Wiggly I think he was probably one of the best junglers in Academy, but then he couldn't keep up, I think, with Sensigarin in the finals of Academy. And you have Moon, and he wasn't good. He was actually worse than Wiggly. So then both of them, I would say, aren't just that great anymore, and not even great anymore, but can't compete with the current LCS caliber junglers. Then you have mid lane, right? Mid lane and bot lane, right? That's your strong firepower of CLG. PoE's god. He can play really well, but is it strong enough to carry them against other LCS teams? I don't think so. I don't think he can actually basically shit on anyone else other than maybe Phoenix. I think Damonte, Niski, Huhi, Polbelter, Froggen, Crown, Jensen, Bjergsen can actually either go 50-50 against them or basically win. On Froggen and Damonte, I'd say probably more 50-50. And maybe Huhi too. But I think those three, and I mean those four, they're basically the same level. I don't think PoE just has enough firepower to even beat any of them. Then you would go to the bot lane, right? But then I just don't think Biofrost and Six are actually even good enough to beat, let's say, the S caliber ball lanes in the LCS. You got Team Liquid, you got 100T, you got TSM, and then you just got the other ADCs that I think that are actually equivalent to either Biofrost and Six Day, which is almost everyone. And then there's just a lot of examples that I have, but I feel like I'm talking a little too long. So
Mark,
you guys can go ahead.
No,
CLG
you're good. I think
10th place.
like I don't want to say this, but and I don't necessarily agree with every point you're making, but it does feel a little scary right now, just because there was such few like things to latch onto. As like, oh well, that works in this game, so we can hold on to this idea. Like, you know, 6A and Biofrost were relatively disappointing in their game, their first game, where 6A got picked off a number of times and stuff like that, and PoE kind of went for these counter picks on Lissandra 2 times, but didn't actually like win lane ever and these kinds of things. I disagree. I think a little bit on like a raw skill level that they're in as much trouble as you were making it seem they were. I think PoE can be better than Damonte, who he at times Pobelter. He can be better than forgetting a team that I just had in mind. Oh, Phoenix. So like, you know, I can see a world where that's all true. I think they're better than a lot of bot lanes. Optics bot lane, I think they can be better when they're playing well than Echo Fox's bot lane of Apollo and Hakuho. As much as I love them and think they're really consistent, I think 6A is a bit of a streaky player, but when he's on, they're better than that. I think they can be better than Golden Guardian's bot lane. Like I think they have a number of opponents on a raw skill perspective that they can be better than in some of their positions, but I think the concern is they're not so much better skill-wise that they can overwhelm people. And coaching strategic perspective, I don't know if they have a leg up on people. Like what I've seen so far is kind of weird where, you know, Weldon was in the CLG subreddit kind of going over what they're trying to do with like attempting to get data points on everyone to get their skill levels and stuff like that, where it just seems weird to like lose a third of a season and a whole bunch of a preseason with that kind of stuff. So,
well, not to mention, I feel like CLG, especially coming off of last year, you probably want to be giving that team as much confidence as possible. And I feel like a lot of losses tend to just kind of landslide with a team. Like the mentality starts to go to shit. People start feeling like they're just wasting their time or their year, like experimenting with the roster and not really caring about, well, I'm sure they care about wins and losses, but focusing more on data points and data collection rather than getting the players confident. It's dangerous, I feel like.
It feels like it's too long-term focused, you know, like...
Yeah, I agree.
The present does matter still. And, like, it's the kind of thing where, like, maybe you start with your core 5 while, like, looking for opportunities to sub in other people, but to just start doing that immediately seems a little surprising. And so...
On the other hand, you can look at Cloud9 last year.
I was going to make that same point.
Yeah.
Wait, but Kelby. Sorry, you go, Kelby.
Yeah.
No. I was going to say, yeah, like you look at Cloud9 last year, obviously you have to be able to put it together like Jack and Reaper did, and you have to have the talent to warrant it, but it just doesn't automatically mean the end. I mean, Weldon has led a lot of teams to a lot of big titles, you know? And I personally feel like it's 1 week. it's really hard for me to look at that roster in comparison to other rosters personally and say like they're definitely going to be 10th place. The biggest thing that I'm concerned about with that team is like Stixay is this variable that I feel is he's always kind of been a little inconsistent in like the past year, and now I feel like he's kind of ending up on the bad side of consistency more often than the positive side of inconsistency. Sorry, so like I worry about like what place is he actually as an ADC in this league?
I think to your point about like C9s swapping that goes on, I think it's one of those things where, like the devil's in the details, because the problem C9 was facing was like they had such good players that they had become slightly complacent with like their work ethic, and this was more of a motivation tactic, it sounded like, while also being able to try people out, and they ended up swapping Smoothie for Zazel. But with the CLG thing, based off the reasoning I saw from Weldon on Reddit, it was basically like, well, we just want to give everyone a chance, which is weird that you don't you don't have a better inclination going into the season about who you actually want to start.
I don't think they'll be 9th because I think some other team will go crazy boom. Like Optic or Echo Fox or Clutch. Like there will be another team that just goes so crazy that at the very least CLG can get 9th,
Yeah. Yeah, I feel that.
I could,
But
I
I do question their ability to get it to playoffs this year. I think there's a world where CLG doesn't make it into playoffs either year. And if that's the case, like, Jesus, after last year and then this year, if they have that issue, that's a huge problem for CLG.
Yeah, I mean, I'm concerned because I feel like Hooney is good enough to keep Clutch. Based off what I've seen this weekend, Hooney's good enough to keep Clutch out of 10th. Crown is good enough to keep Clutch out of 10th.
Optic, you mean?
Optic.
Crown is going to keep Clutch out of 10th. That's how good he is. He's going to be down there at the bottom.
He's going to carry 2 teams at once.
Yeah.
I feel like Echo Fox's bot lane is consistent enough to keep them out of 10th. Like, who is actually 10th place material?
Who's 10th place, right?
Yeah.
Whatever team blows up
from
an emotional perspective. Like, some team will lose it.
Yeah, I mean, like, basically what happened with Clutch in summer when, like, it sounded like Febby and them were kind of all just mental boom. Potentially,
mental boom, right?
But I don't... From a skill perspective, I think CLG doesn't, like, have any inherent... Like, they don't have any inherent super hard carry other than maybe PoE.
Yeah.
Anyways.
So we're all agreeing that it's 10th place.
No, I don't think it's 10th place.
I don't think it's 10th place because I think another team will do it. I think Mark's point is right that there's people that are skilled enough to like try to boost it, but I feel like some team will just implode. Like Crown and Hooney.
I think Golden Guardians.
I agree with Golden Guardians. I think
potentially, but Crown and Hooney and those guys are only good enough to keep their teams out of 10th place until they stop trying, or until they just get super frustrated, or until they lose it and get replaced by another player because now they've just started screaming at their teammates or something. I mean, I don't know. But there's always there's skill, and then there's sort of the attitude and tempo of the team, and I feel like those could get disrupted. Dead Fox, any final thoughts?
No, not at all. Oh, shout out to Travis Gafford Industries. I saw the Double Lift interview. I think he agrees with me that CLG's kind of poo.
Yeah. Peter didn't have great things to say about CLG. I'll talk to you later, Dead Fox. Thanks.
Right. Thank you guys. See ya.
You'll talk to him later. Ooh.
It's been a while since Peter had great things to say about CLG.
We always have call-ins on, repeat callers, and I just assume Dead Fox is going to be one of them. He seems like a thoughtful person. Travis really hates Optic, LMAO, says Charlie Smith, 2000X. Whatever. You can't ever say anything about a team without people saying they just hate you. Play Migos, Cygnus.
I gotta go to the bathroom. Shadow's here though.
Shaken
What's
Babies, Dim Light, Thick Smoke, C9 Jack, and Butt Holtz. Thank you for the 3 months. Shadow, where are you
what's
calling
up? Houston, Texas.
from? Houston, Texas. Another Texas caller. We've heard how it is in Dallas. Why don't you tell us how it is in Houston?
Houston, it's like pretty chilly.
Okay.
It's chill. It's chill. I like it.
I'm really
Just came
hopeful
back.
that by the end of this episode, we're just able to complete a weather map of North America. Like, all right, we've got some rain coming in. We've got Shadow reporting that we've got rain coming into Houston soon. What do you want? What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
I think 100 Thieves will fail this year. They won't make it to any finals or worlds.
This is the caller I was waiting for, dude.
Yeah, we
Hey,
need to get
I'm
Mark.
here.
Mark needs to come back. Mark, come on. This is. Well, I'm losing. Clearly, I'm so excited. I'm losing focus. Somebody just claimed I hate Optic, and boy, are they in for a surprise whenever we talk about 100T. Let's go. I wanted Mark to be here for my victory lap, but if that's fine. Look. To be clear, I like Nadeshot. I like 100T. They're doing great stuff as a brand. I gotta say all this shit at the front, and I like their players. But I have been very skeptical of 100T, and last week I got flamed, much like the Froggen thing, for saying that I was skeptical of 100T, and I thought that they were going to lose to TSM, and boy golly gee, have we discovered that 100T is maybe not what everybody thought they were, and like, what they've got, bang, is not enough to like make them find a ton of success. Shadow, why don't you share your side, though, because I shouldn't.
All right, so who would y'all say is the worst mid laner in LCS?
Phoenix?
Back for this.
You think it's Phoenix?
Phoenix was my gut reaction, yeah.
No,
I mean, Huhi did not look great this week.
Holy shit! Yeah, we're talking about our boy Huhi, dude.
Yeah, that's the point, Gil. Welcome to the conversation.
Oh my god. Yeah, I think Huhi is real close. Like, Huhi has some like champions that he can bust it out on. So does Phoenix, to be fair. But anyway, sorry, you were making a point.
We're debating 10th place mid laners.
He's saying that 100T is going to fail, and his definition of fail was not make a final and not make it to Worlds.
Oh.
Is that an accurate summary?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mark.
Okay, so since we say Huhi's the worst mid laner, and then Bang was playing with the best mid laner in the world like last year, and then there's like out of all 4 regions, there's like 45 mid laners. So he went from first mid laner to 45th mid laner in all 4 regions.
Oh my god!
I did like the Reddit thread after that game. Maybe it was the second day where it's like bang. Well, it's okay. Don't worry. Mid lane's got this. Oh wait, that's not Faker. Like just all the conversation around that Reddit thread was great around Bang having to play with Huhi now. Mark, is Huhi the worst mid laner in NA?
Jury's still out a little bit, but it's a tight race. It's a real tight race.
Who else do you have down there, Mark?
I think, depending on how Froggen works out the rest of the season, I think it's potentially between Huhi, Froggen. What was the one you were saying before? I just slipped out of my mind. Phoenix, yeah.
God, I need to start screenshotting Twitch chat when people come and scream at me about my opinions and predictions, because we went from people telling me Froggen was the next coming of God to Mark saying he's potentially.
Well, so I've been a Froggen hater for a long time now. Just so it's been clear.
All right,
you can't hate on dude. Froggen used to be like God.
No, I don't hate on his legacy. Like, don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
Like Froggen.
And we should be clear here. You don't hate on Froggen as a person either. You like
not as a person either.
Dude, is such a nice guy.
Yeah.
It's
To be fair, like the reason that Froggen gets so much shit from people like me is not his fault, but like he has fans who love him for his season 2, 3, and 4 accomplishments who can't let them go and see who he is now. So like you have to be extra vocal to try and shout those people down. So like I feel like
Froggen had the worst stats of last week. Him and
I mean that's 2 games, so I don't put too much credence in that, but like I put way more credence in the fact that he hasn't made a playoff since 2014. Like it's been 4.5 years since he's made top 6 in a league, which is not that hard to do, honestly.
Yeah.
Mark, can I just point out something very telling that you said about Froggen?
What's that?
You said that people can't see who he is now.
Goddamn puns.
Yeah. Think about it.
Okay, back to 100T.
People keep saying this is how people defend Froggen's like bad placings is they say like, well, his team sucked. It's like, yeah, so did TSM when Bjergsen was 1v4 with like the Ward joke, and they were the #1 team in the league. Like, you can only use that excuse so far. Like a world-class player will carry a team to fucking playoffs.
Yeah.
PoE almost did it last split with Optic and Dokla and whoever else the fuck was on that team. Okay?
Arrow.
Yeah, Arrow big, and Arrow's playing like poo-poo. So like, I agree. Like, I don't think he's been on these like great teams holding them back. But like, if he is truly the player people build him up to be, he could carry those teams to playoffs.
Yeah, I thought that Hunter T. I had them ranked 4th this season. I thought that they were going to lose these first 2 games because I have TSM and C9 ranked higher. But after this first week, and again, it's just 1 week, I've been saying for a while, I'm really not on the Huhi train. And in the off season, when Hunter T could have gotten like Po Belter instead of like Huhi potentially, you would think, or I don't know, maybe not. But like, if I were Hunter T, I would have been dying to have Po instead of Huhi. And then like Afro is like, it was not a strong first week, and I had Anda higher in terms of performance, but apparently he had a really rough weekend. It was just like the Someday Bang show. And if it's just going to be the Someday Bang show all split, they're not going to end up in 4th place.
Yeah, Bang's not like a solo carry player. Like, he needs like he needs a stable mid laner to perform. Like, if they wanted a solo carry 80, they should have got like Deft or something. But I don't think Bang was the right fit for 100 Thieves.
I mean, I think the crux of this argument comes down to like, you know, how bad we think 100 Thieves is going to be, because we're making it sound like it's all doom and gloom.
10th place.
They should probably semis at playoffs, like semis.
Right, which all things considered is like, you know, not that bad.
No, it's a good showing.
Do we think they're going to get semis? I don't know if they're going to be top 4 this split.
Maybe not this split, but maybe one split, hopefully.
I don't. It's a range of things, right? But like, I still feel like, you know, 100 Thieves. Keep in mind, they had the hardest weekend out of anyone. They played TL and C9, the 2 best teams from last year.
TSM.
Who like,
Yeah,
or
they
excuse me,
played
TSM and C9.
Yeah.
But TSM doesn't even look that good. Like, TSM,
they look pretty good. They should have gone 2-0 this week, and they fucked up. And TL, they play TL next week, right?
Yeah, it's rough.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they have a really hard opening. So like, I'm not gonna go out and blast them right now. I still think like, I think they'll be a playoff team, and I agree with Shadow's point that like they will fail potentially compared to last year, depending on how good TSM is. I feel like right now it's a bit of a race between them two and FlyQuest, who I was actually super impressed with this weekend.
Who's going to get top 4 over them?
Clutch is a top 4 team, honestly.
We haven't talked that much about Clutch, and I think we might have a caller coming up about it. But I thought they basically lucked into their wins.
No, they look pretty good.
I love this caller. No.
Nah.
Yeah.
Nah, Mark.
Yeah. I got to double down on my horrible power ranking. I got to double down on it.
Shadow's calling from Houston. And
Yeah,
Clutch is like the
that's
Houston
true.
team.
So
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
the biased one,
So
not
of
me
course
trying to
not.
defend my power ranking.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Love
How do you
it.
feel about Harden, dude? Best player of the generation?
They just lost today by 2 points or like 4 points. Harden's carrying like 1v9, just like
He's
who's
the
playing
Huni
1v9? No, Huni's not 1v.
Oh, yeah,
There's no one that's 1v9 right now in LCS, honestly.
No, I think Huki and Piglet are both pretty volatile, and the only reason that they won their games is actually DeMonte like stepping up huge both games.
I think Lyra is going to be good this year.
Lyra looked better than he did previously. I think he'll end up somewhere between like NV Lyra and Clutch Gaming last year Lyra. I think they're much better than 10th, which is where I put them. So obviously I'm fucking wrong, but I don't super buy into the 2-0 like top half of the league thing quite yet.
I remember last year Kelby said they were pretenders, and I was telling them no, they're for real.
God damn it, dude!
I
can't
think Hunter
my
T
mistakes.
in spring won't get top 4 in playoffs or at the end, because I think what will happen is you'll have TSM, C9, and TL up there, and then you'll have either a Clutch or an
FlyQuest.
Echo Fox or a Fly, some sort of unique thing that happens. I feel like that's usually how playoffs and LCS splits goes. You have like this one random team that makes it up in the top 4 slot, and everyone forgets about it 2 years later. But that's my prediction.
Jack says TL, TSM, Clutch, 100 Thieves, and Fly are top half of the league.
Okay, so there we go. We got Fly. I think Fly will make it into the top 4. And
I believe in Fly.
Yeah. All right. But so sorry. The overall conversation was just So Shadow, you just called a crap on Huhi, right?
Yeah, and then Bang is not like. I feel like he's not well suited for that team and what they want to do.
Yeah.
Why do you think that? Just out of curiosity, can you elaborate?
Like Bang, I don't think he's a 1v9 player. Like,
so you're saying he's not well suited because he can't carry his entire team?
Yeah, because last year when they had Cody, like Cody's like you could plug him into a team and they'll like be stable. But like I don't know the same thing for Bang. You can't just like plug him in and like think he'll. I don't know. I just don't think he'll do well. Like,
I disagree with that because you're saying he's not a 1v9 player, but like Cody's not a 1v9 player. Cody like he had really low forward percent, and the way that they like won games most of the time was like Afro and Meteos would play making the mid to early mid game and like set Cody up and feed him a bunch of kills. So mid to late game when they're like team fighting and shot calling and all that stuff could shine. Like he was a reliable carry. I think Bang can fit that mold just as well and be even better. So I think like. From a playstyle perspective, I think Bang matches up pretty well. It's just like the game is super fast paced right now, super aggro.
Yeah, and it's not 80 favored.
It's not 80 favored exactly. So like I just don't know if like 100 Thieves, who has been a traditionally slow team, is suddenly going to like adapt to like the meta is a bigger concern, as well as like you said, Huhi and some of this other stuff.
Yeah.
They may move slow, but that merch moves fast.
Sure.
Shadow, thank you so much for the call. Any final thoughts?
No, that's it. Thank y'all for having me.
Yeah, keep pulling it down in Houston.
All right, I will. Yeah. No problem.
Have a good one.
Dude, I really like that guy.
Me too.
Yeah, he's fun.
I really
that
like
was great. Went from the number 1 rank mid, even though it wasn't rookie, to the 45th ranked mid is hilarious.
All right, we got all of Jack's gifted subs. Thank you so much, Jack. Flurry, Bootchen, Jakers, Alibass, Ike001, Habs2099, Corey Lulu for 13 months, and then Boba Cola also for 13 months. Missed you, Boba Cola. Island Aloha is his message. If you would like to sub or throw a Twitch Prime my way, super appreciated. We're trying to rebuild our sub empire. We got Casey Clark on the show. Casey Clark, is that your real name?
Sure.
Okay. Where are you calling from?
I'm calling from American University in Washington, D.C.
American University in Washington, D.C.
Appropriately titled.
How are things in Washington, D.C. these days?
Wild.
Wild, yeah.
Lots of politics.
Yeah. I've been reading lately about some of the politics.
Oh, here we go.
I've been advised never to bring up politics on these shows.
Thank you.
So we won't discuss.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, it's okay. Anyway, what do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
So I want to talk about how the LCS should present itself to people who aren't super involved in esports or don't really know the whole deal going on, and how Sneaky's cosplay detracts from the professionalism that I think the LCS should show outwardly. And then
okay, continue.
Mark, was this in the pitch?
Yes.
All right.
This is a unique take. I have not heard anyone.
Yeah.
I've never heard this before, so yeah, I want a more unique take than Huhi's bad.
Okay, so you think about how traditional sports present themselves. The highest level of competition, right? A high degree of professionalism. The players show a lot of poise in all public-facing messaging, right?
Do they? I mean, I would dispute that based off of some.
Ray Rice disagrees.
Just let's let him continue.
You talk about practice.
As to, I'm talking about what the hypothetical goal should be. That's fair.
Mm-hmm.
But so you have people who say that gaming's not a thing, esports isn't real, I shouldn't take this seriously at all. And then let's say they go on Sneaky's Twitter they're like, oh, exactly what I thought, right? And then in the same vein, you have the Cloud9, which Cloud9 should have an image of, okay, we have the best players in the world, the highest degree of professional, and everything we care about is competition. And I think the cosplay takes away from that. Now, the counterpoint to that, of course, is we care about social media engagement. It's okay that we differentiate ourselves from traditional sports because there's a big difference. So I get that, but I have concerns about what it shows, about how much we care about the highest level of competition.
Casey, you described a scenario in which somebody who doesn't really know much about esports but is trying to learn about it, decides to go to Sneaky's Twitter and browse it. Can you elaborate a little bit more on what scenario that would indicate that?
A hypothetical one.
Yeah, well, I think highly hypothetical, because that's my point. Is I don't think that the people who don't know much about esports are like, twitter.com/C9Sneaky. Let's see what this guy has to offer as an esports. Like, it's just, that's not how people discover esports, right? They discover esports because they heard Madison Square Garden got sold out, or some big sponsors coming in, or
honestly, most likely they played the game that the esport is in. They started playing League, and then they found the LCS, and then they find Sneaky. It's like 3 steps removed almost.
Yeah. On the other end, and even in a world where that is the case, I feel like they might go to Sneaky's Twitter, see what's there, and be like, "Wow, I'd like more of this. Where do I find? Where could I follow up on this?"
Sure, I guess.
Careful.
I guess my argument is more conceptual about what the messaging and the goals should hypothetically be you're trying to put forward to the public, which is fair.
I'll throw a bone to Casey a little bit. Like, it depends how this cosplay is happening, because like, if Sneaky's like ditching practice responsibilities or not upholding like what is expected of a pro player in order to do this, then sure, I'd agree it's a bit of a problem. But that's more like a C9 problem than a scene, like an entire scene problem. Now, from what I know, if this is correct, which I'm pretty sure it is, it's like, I'm pretty sure his girlfriend is a cosplayer who does most of the work for his stuff, and then he like goes to the shoots and like participates and stuff like that. I don't think he's building a cosplay himself, really.
I would be shocked if he's skipping scrims or missing mandatory skill.
Right. So like, I'm pretty sure, Monday is their off day, and like the KDA one that just came out, I'm sure he like went on a Monday that was his off day to a shoot with his girlfriend, and they shot it, and it's like not a big deal in terms of like what is taking out of it. So that's my number one concern, which I think is pretty much addressed there. It's not a problem from a C9 practice perspective. From a community and how we're being represented perspective, in some ways, if it does turn people off to it, I'm like, great. Those people probably would not have enjoyed our scene anyways. Like, if you're not down with trolly stupid shit, like, then you're probably not going to enjoy gaming as a whole, because it's a lot of like goofy, weird stuff.
Yeah, it definitely depends on what your goals are. The way I think about it, increased viewership, validation amongst the general public that this is real competition.
What viewership and validation are you worried about losing because Sneaky does cosplay and posts about it on social media?
People who aren't ingrained with the scene who could care about those things.
Well, so actually,
wait. Let's say 5% of the population is interested and invested in esports, and let's say you want to get that to 15%. Is the 10% growth there turned off by stuff like that? Who knows?
Again, I think a lot of that growth is possibly turned on by some of it as well.
I'm just the people who are watching and willing to become invested in professional League of Legends. Think about the percentage of the LCS audience that has played League of Legends in their life. What percentage would you wager that is?
I'd wager 95%, maybe.
Yeah, probably, right? And then of that, it's not just like the casual fan. The esports fan tends to be the more engaged person. Like, I'm curious about a scenario in which you think like we have to adhere to traditional sports expectations and norms for esports. I was a huge traditional sports fan all the way through junior high and high school, and now I don't personally follow traditional sports much because I don't have cable, and no fucking way I'm gonna get cable. And I love esports. There's nothing about what Sneaky does that inherently is unprofessional to me. Like, it's like a weird word to use to associate his cosplay with not being professional.
Yeah, actually.
Right. Like,
go ahead, Mark.
I was gonna say, like, if like a cosplay shoot, while like maybe like seeing a crossplay is a little weird to some people, it's like from a professional level, it doesn't take any more time than like a shoot for a product to promote something or any other kind of photo shoot that you do.
And Casey, here, let's just take a question here. Do you think that the NBA, like, let's say, what's the Rockets guy that everybody with the crazy
Dennis Rodman?
No.
James Harden.
James Harden. Let's say James Harden wanted to start doing not gender bend, cross-dressing cosplay. Do you think the NBA would like fine him or prevent him from doing that?
You don't even need to ask that. Dennis Rodman already did this. He like wore dresses and makeups and like dressed like a clown and shit. Like it was fine. People thought he was crazy, but it was fine.
It's not the gender so much. I was actually thinking about going on in the waiting room. It's not the fact that he's dressing up that's the concern. It's just the fact that he's dressing up in general. Like, I would probably root for the Golden State Warriors less if Steph Curry dressed up in a teddy bear outfit or something. I don't know what the traditional sports analogy is.
I mean, you might not, like, as a fan, you might not be drawn to someone who has a goofier side when you're expecting, like, the highest level. Like, you want the super serious guy, like, you're drawn to, like, the Kobe's of the world. But that doesn't mean that other fans aren't drawn to the sneakies and, like, the goofier guys and the ones with a sense of humor who, like, understand that, like, you know, there's other elements beyond just being, like, a machine drawn to be the best. So, like, I think it's not any more harmful than any other person who has shown themselves to have a larger personality outside the game.
Yeah,
don't we think that's...
Sorry.
No, you're fine. Continue.
I'll admit that I was attracted to Team Liquid because I got a sense that they were the team that cared about it the most and were the most professional in terms of how they practiced and how the team worked with each other. And C9 might be the goofballs or whatever the scene. Hence, I'm a Liquid fan.
And I think that's really good that those teams have distinct brands. If everybody is pushing for the same thing, like, you're just going to have a bunch of carbon copies of yourself. I think that it's, like, I would say a pretty understood fact that, like, Sneaky's cosplays have helped elevate his profile and popularity within the scene. If anything, I'm sure, and I'm not speaking for Jack or the C9 brand, but I would probably think that if I were to guess, they would view it as a positive thing that he has added. It allows people to attach more personality to this person, which is always good for building fandom, as long as you're not, like, doing it in some, like, you know, hateful or something way. But certainly what Sneaky is doing is something that is you know, like, breaking down norms, barriers, and expectations and opening up to, I would say, a broader demographic than what you would, like, normally associate with somebody who's just, like, I don't know, like a carbon copy personality. If everybody's supposed to be this same way, I think that's one of the things that's really great about gaming and esports is that we are different from traditional sports in a lot of those ways, and I think that's totally fine. If you want to, like, a more professional team and somebody who's, you know, like, more straight-laced, like Team Liquid, that's great. That team exists, and they are there, and they are focusing, you know, like, that exact personality for you. And then there's the C9s who, like, have definitely, especially on social, like, moved to be more of, like, the Mimi team and people who are, like, producing content in that effect. And I think it's been awesome. I've really, really liked, personally, that's just for me, like, what C9 has done there. And I think that, you know, it helps flesh out their fan base and allows them to get more attached because they have more of a distinct personality now than before. But that's just me.
Yep. Hey, Casey, thanks for the call. Is there any final thoughts as we wrap up the call?
Thank you for having me. And in hindsight, I think my forte is not branding.
Well, thanks so much.
It's okay.
Casey.
I think it's a really good conversation.
Yeah.
That's why I was happy to pull you, dude. It's like this is something that I think some people don't even think twice about. So even if we don't agree, like fuck, I'd rather talk about it than not.
Sure. Thank you for having me.
Yep. Thanks so much. All right, moving on to the next caller. We've got a couple of shout-outs to make. We've got Gunsit. Thank you, Gunsit, for the sub. Boba Cola for gifting one to Baby Mochi. Chaos 3136, thank you for the prime. Jimmy Voop and Fiery Lightning, both calling in, or thank you for the subs. We should have another person in just a second. How you doing, Kelby? Oh, here's our next person. Dex Factor 777, welcome to the show.
Hello, hello.
Where are you calling from?
Hutchinson, Kansas.
What do you want to talk about on the show tonight?
That C9 will be actually better with Niski instead of Jensen and will win the summer split, if not the spring split also.
So go ahead and let us know how.
Okay, well, I've always had, I've liked Jensen. He's done well with C9, but I've always got a feeling like he didn't fit into the culture fully. Sometimes in like videos and that, it almost seemed like he didn't want to be there. And like I know Niski just got picked up, but like watching a lot of the prep into LCS videos and like the get hype for C9, it seems like he's a really, really, really good culture fit. And I think it's going to really allow the team to gel really well, and their teamwork will improve. That overall, I would say Jensen is probably 1-to-1 a better player in a 1v1, but I think Niski will work better with the team. And then by that, they'll actually be better in the long run, because I think their Team Liquid will end up finding those problems that Jensen can kind of have.
How do we feel after the first weekend, Mark?
I'm pretty happy with Niski's performance overall. I put C9 number 2 in my power rankings, I believe. And after what I saw, I pretty much stand by that. He had a bit of a rough game starting out on Zoe, but I would chalk that more up to like nerves of the first game, and he kind of settled into it later on. And they were going up against what I think is the best team in the league. So like I didn't walk away from that being like, oh man, this game missed some Zoe cues. Whoop-de-doo, you know? So overall, still pretty confident in them. And then obviously he bashed Shuhei in the second game. Whether or not Niski is going to put them over the hump, though, is a different concern for me. I've heard behind the scenes some difficulties of working with Jensen from the junglers he's worked with and stuff before, and general things. But it still felt like at the end of the day, like Jensen was enough of a. I heard he's very demanding about like what he wants and stuff like that, but it felt like he was good enough that like the problem never came down to like him working with teammates or anything. It felt like Jensen himself had a bit of a choking problem on the final stage, and he'd be fine at Worlds for some reason. Like I don't know why it was that way, and for the most part, he still played pretty well. So if C9 does get over the hump, I think I'd attribute it less to Niski himself and more like Licorice continuing to develop from his rookie year, and Zeyzal continuing to develop from his rookie year, and Niski being a good Jensen replacement. Because I think while that finals between C9 and TL wasn't close last summer, I think given what we saw at Worlds, like they were actually a pretty close team. And so if C9 does win spring or summer split, I don't know how much of that right now I would put on Niski versus like the continued development of the young players. Which, to be fair, Niski is young, but like more of an overall team growth perspective than like a Niski put them over the hump.
I will say, Mark, I agree like literally 100% with everything that you just said. I also had C9 number 2, and I think that if they do go number 1, it will be for the reasons that you just said. But it's not going to happen. And the reason that
Is it 0% chance, Kelby? Is it 0?
The reason that it's not going to happen doesn't have to do with Niski or Jensen or top or jungle. It has to do with bot lane and the fact that North America runs through Peter Pang, my boy. All right? Since Doublelift won his first split, in every single split he's played in, except for one.
Which,
his team,
to be fair, he joined TL halfway through, right? Is that the split you're talking about?
No. I'm talking about the split after he joined TSM and they lost to CLG in the final.
Oh, right.
He lost his first split on TSM. I'm not counting the Team Liquid split. That was like save me from relegation split. Every single split he's played since he won his first one, except for one, has gone through Peter Pang. He's the best player in the history of North America. He's not given up the title, and I think that him and Core JJ, they're just the difference. Like, I'm sorry, but like, until I see it happen, NA goes through Peter, and I don't think he's going to give it up this year.
Sorry, I was muted. I'm super interested to see how everything plays out because, like, the fun thing for me is that I just feel like this is like such a great rivalry that is occurring. It's like super fascinating to see how this all plays out. And it's funny because I talked to Niski this past weekend, and he's like, "Well, like it doesn't feel like there's that much of a like rivalry. Particularly, I'm not super interested in like talking to him to." Competing against him or fighting against him in the mid lane versus like other people, obviously Jensen. But it's like kind of funny that people have pulled this all together. By the way, if we can get some mods in the chat with the spam, it's
spam away, Twitch chat. That's what you're here for.
What are they spamming? Oh, actually, maybe not. I can't ask.
It's Jensen's an NA hater. Is that the one?
Yeah, yes. I don't know what's going on there.
I don't know either. Just spam, dude.
Yeah.
Jack started it, they said. I don't know, ban Jack.
Great. Well, whatever. I don't know. It's super, super fascinating. I don't know. Do we have any other final thoughts on this before we move on?
I mean, I think C9 is the only team that would threaten TL, in my personal opinion, but we'll see.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks so much to Dex Factor for the call. Any final thoughts at the end here?
No. Thanks for having me on, and appreciate it.
Yeah, have a good one.
See you guys later.
Thanks, dude.
So we're winding down right now. We only have one more caller, but we're trying to move things along quickly because we're running out of time here. Show's supposed to end in about 5 minutes. So really quickly, thank you to Atison for the sub and Bobacola for gifting a sub to Helios, LOL. Let's move on to the last caller.
He's here.
Tom Shu rejoining us. What's up, Tom Shu?
The regular.
Oh, hey guys, how you doing?
Hey, good to have you back on the show.
Yeah, that's good.
Yep.
So I wanted to talk a little bit about let's talk about FlyQuest and how they got the 2-0 in the first week. So I'm trying to get your opinion on like what's making FlyQuest do so well on the onset. I know it's sort of because they had a bit of an easy week. I think they beat Golden Guardians and Optic this week, if I'm correct. Yeah.
That's
yes.
Yeah, I think it's Golden Guardians and Optic.
Yeah, it was Golden Guardians Optic.
And I'm sure everyone was pretty down on them from the beginning, from the start, because basically like NA players, Po Belter is just his NA mid laner, he can't really get anything done, and Viper is an unknown talent. So and then then actually week one actually happens, and they just start like popping off. Do you think it's more because of like their individual skill, or is it more because of the team play that they're managing to get done even without Sane Vicious that's making them succeed?
I think it's two things. One, people underrate Pobelter. Like, I have vocally kind of blasted him at international play for not being able to hold up, but I maintain that in North America, he's a stud. I said that in my power ranking video. I'll say it again here. Like, he's actually really, really good. Maybe he gets exploited on the international stage, but like, guess what? So did Crown, and Crown's crushing it in NA right now too. Like, I think Pobelter's really, really good, and like, we haven't seen him be the focal point necessarily of a team before, where he's like the main carry, but like, he's won multiple championships. He's really good, and some of those he's been the MVP. So like, he's definitely underrated, I think, in a lot of people's minds. For me, the reason I think I had them lower, which was I think I had them 7th, just outside playoffs. One, I think I undervalued their summer split performance and spring split performance, where they were, you know, top 4 in regular season of summer, I believe. Just due to like their general team synergy and cohesion and stuff like that. And second, I think people get like really hyped in the offseason when they see roster moves, and they kind of assume the best of people. Like, oh man, if Huhi plays like this, Huni plays like this, and Piglet plays like this, and Lyra plays like this, they're a top 3 team. And same for Golden Guardians, and same for all these other teams. You start like building up a narrative in your head if everything goes back to how they were at their prime. Whereas a team like, you know, FlyQuest, the players at their prime isn't necessarily like the sexiest thing in the world, but they're all really, really good. And so you kind of underrate them and overrate other teams. So now that I've seen them play for a weekend, like, I like their strategy and the comps and the drafts that they're doing. And I've always liked Invert, who was the academy coach for a long time. I've always liked him. I think a lot of their players are really good. I was a little concerned about Viper, but it feels like for the most part, he's not, even if he's not as good as he looked in the first week, he's not so bad that he's going to really hold his team back or anything, and he has potential to be good. And then overall, the team is still really, really, really good. So I would put them as a top 5 team for sure, maybe higher. I would put them as my dark horse for finalists if, you know, TSM and 100 Thieves don't work out. Like, maybe they can somehow get there. They would.
What
they
about
would,
C9 and TL?
Yeah. So I think C9 and TL are my favorites for finalists.
Okay.
If one of them didn't make it, I would say like FlyQuest might actually be a dark horse, depending on how much TSM and 100 Thieves shape up.
Man, what I feel like nobody would have said that before the start of this weekend.
No, for sure not.
Yeah.
They definitely took the GGS throne.
I do have a follow-up question though. Do you think this kind of like performance from FlyQuest is actually sustainable? I was looking through some of the stats, the advanced stats that I got from Oracle's Elixir, and I noticed that all of Clutch's laners did tend to have negative CSDs at 10, which sort of seems like their laning seems a little bit subpar, and especially against teams like Optic and whoever they Golden Guardians, which aren't necessarily the absolute strongest of laners, which can be a little concerning against better teams like C9 and TL. But one thing I did notice is like all of them except for Viper had like kill participations in like the top 3. Like, is this kind of, we're just gonna not be able to crush lane, but we're just gonna like try and dominate and just send more people to fights? Is this actually gonna be able to work over the long haul as other teams are able to like, you know, get their synergy going and be able to hopefully match that?
I think anytime you're using 2-game sample size as stats, it's really unreliable because like people have played different matchups. Maybe someone had like a bad game, you know, like Huhi died to Broken Blade a bunch, or Huni. God, I keep saying Huhi instead of Huni. I'm fucking up so bad.
I do it all the time.
Yeah.
Huni died a bunch to Broken Blade. That's gonna fuck his stats up. Maybe he played bad and then he got snowballed on in a pretty volatile matchup. That doesn't mean Huni is like permanently that guy. So I don't trust stats.
Like, do you really consider Pobelter and like Wild Turtle to be like dominant laners though? Like,
no,
maybe
that's
Viper, but like, yeah.
I haven't said that, have I?
I mean, that's what you're implying.
No, I'm not.
No, he's just saying that stats over 2 games is not a large enough sample size to draw any results.
Right, that's all I'm saying is like I don't give a fuck what the stats say right now. I'm using purely eyeball test. Like, I think they looked really good out of laning phase, and I like that a lot. I thought their drafts were smart. I think their players are good. I'm still a little concerned about Viper, but Pobelter has never had a problem in North America realistically, and I don't think that's going to start this season. So like, yeah, maybe they're not dominant laners, but I don't think you need to be a dominant laner to be a top 5, top 4 team in North America. So I'm just saying that, like, based off what I saw this weekend, I'm a lot higher on them than I was before because I think I bought into too much hype on some other teams. And, you know, depending on how things develop from here, I would say that they are a dark horse for, like, dark horse means unlikely, right? So, like, I'm not saying that they're going to make top 2, but I'm saying, like, of the teams that played this weekend, I would still take TL and C9, but then I would actually put FlyQuest third as most likely. But that's going to change. This is purely a week 1 reaction, I'm saying.
And I just noticed in chat, Corey Lulu just typed, you literally just called the team a dark horse for a 2-game sample size, just saying.
And I didn't use stats. I'm just saying the stats.
No, you're still using a 2-game sample size.
Right, but you were saying based off advanced statistics I saw about CSD. Like, I don't give a fuck about that. I'm saying based off what I saw. That was what I was critiquing, was the stats.
It's the same
and I'm
thing.
still... That's,
all right.
That's a stretch.
Come on.
Oh, come on. What?
Well,
it's still 2-game sample size is a 2-game sample size.
Yeah,
Yes, but
I'm not saying that, like, what I saw this weekend is end all be all. I'm literally saying based off what I saw this weekend. I'm just saying that, like, stats are
and this
a
is
super big stretch
on the 2-game sample size that I was analyzing this weekend. Like, you're saying it's different just because you have an eye test. Like, it's not. It's better than mine just because I'm using stats.
No. If I may, I think what Mark is getting to is that mathematically there are issues with using numbers in a 2-instance sample size. Like,
there's a
rules of
reason
mathematics
no
based around-
statistician will ever a statistician would never use a 2-game sample size for anything.
Yeah. For drawing conclusions based on the math.
A data expert, a statistician, a math expert, no one would ever use a 2-game sample size for anything. So all you can rely on right now is an eyeball test. And I could be fucking wrong. I'm not saying I'm better than math. I'm just saying that, like, no one would ever do that.
All right. Okay. Yeah, I see. I still kind of disagree because it's like you can, like, it just depends on, like, based on your eye test. Okay, yeah, whatever. I'm getting flamed by chat.
No,
ignore chat.
Yeah. Chat always flames. It's a fine discussion to have, but I do think we're starting to run out of time here. So anyway, thank you so much, Tom. Do you have any final thoughts before we start to wrap up the show?
Yeah, quick shout outs. Anyone who honestly, if I'm kind of sad that Mark Z isn't casting Academy this year. I really miss him because I'm still watching Academy games this year and not having the right team sucks. But hopefully you come over there and be able to play for playoffs because I like listening to you cast. It's fun. And remember to support your NA mid laners because one like is one NA mid laner.
Thanks, Tom. I appreciate the call.
Thanks,
no
Steve.
problem. Have a great night, guys.
See you, man.
All right, let's wrap up the show. Mark, any thoughts? Anything you want to throw out there at the end?
Nope. I'm excited the season's back up. I'm excited to be arguing with chat and callers and everything again about how good people look. I'm excited to get shit wrong on the desk. Get shit right, hopefully, as well. And check out next week for offline TV stuff. I know a lot of people in the League community don't love offline TV because it's kind of like vloggy and lame. But we are going to be making a lot more cooler shit, which should come out next week.
Nice. Looking forward to that. Kelby, what do you got for us?
I have a really important thought for chat, actually. All right, so I want you to look at me. All right, I'm a 30-year-old male. I want everybody, if you haven't already, to go and watch Meet Joe Black. Okay, and then when you're watching the film, think about the fact that Brad Pitt was 35 years old when they filmed that movie. That's all.
Oh, that's a great way to end the show.
Can I watch Fight Club instead? How old was he then?
I don't know. I mean, you can look it up, but Fight Club is trying to present a different aesthetic of Brad Pitt than Meet Joe Black is. Meet Joe Black is like the cleanest cut that you could probably see him, right? The freshest face, as it were. Yeah. Also, it's a great film. You should just check it out.
I'm glad we got the movie recommendation here at the end of the show. For everyone, this has been Hotline League episode 61. Be sure to check us out on YouTube, podcasts, etc. And because a lot of people don't know we do an audio version of this. Thanks so much to Alienware for sponsoring the show. Thanks to Mark and Kelby for being on. It was great to have Kelby back after a couple, like a month or so. It's been a bit.
Yeah, it was really fun. I enjoyed it.
Thanks everyone for watching. This has been Hotline League.